Yo, what's up, y'all? Peace. Um, Back with another one. Okay. Um, I want to talk about the cold weather that's going on lately. Okay, because that's a big deal, and people don't know how much evidence there is for this shit. Actually, be surprised. Anyway, I want to start from the beginning so we can build up and figure out how the fuck we got to this point where we at. So the Earth, once it got hit, Tiamat to the Earth, right? The Earth within the system when Saturn wasn't the sun, and then this new sun came, okay, over the cycles of time, because that sun changed, okay? The Earth remained very hot. The Earth always been hot as fuck, okay? And the sun was actually closer to the Earth, okay? The Egyptian year used to be 290 days. And before that, it's even shorter. Okay, and over time, they've been moving the Earth away from the sun, and they use the moon as a part of it. A lot of cultures talk about that, like the Zulu, Sumerians. They talk about shit like that. But why? Why did they do all that? So, a lot of these species that came from other fucking places to here, they're from colder realms, colder planets. They got suns, but they're like farther away. Okay, so even like Nibiru, how they talk about the cycle, it's like when it's close to the sun, it's warm, but when it's far, the core of the planet is like heated, and that's what keeps it hot. There's other planets, and they're like even colder and shit like that. So a lot of these beings that come here that are not from this specific place, they're used to colder weather. Okay. So that cold shit came from other places. And I'm gonna explain how. Okay. So the cold was used as a weapon. What do I mean? Okay. So cold actually doesn't exist. Only heat. Okay. So cold is just the absence of heat. Right? So the places they were at didn't have a lot of heat, right, from their suns. That's what made it cold. Just like Nibiru, when its orbit is farther away, it doesn't have as much heat, which equals colder. Right? So when, the Sumerians, the Zulus, these other, you could go to Cherokee, you could go to other cultures, many cultures talk about the time before the moon. You got people like the Akkadians. I already got into this subject. Okay, they talk about how the flood was associated with the moon coming into the system, the solar system that we have here. Okay, and with that also came that ice age that happened, 10, 12, 13,000 years ago, whenever the fuck these scientists say that shit happened or whatever. That shit is a weapon that comes from their realm that they use, okay, to make the planet more controllable for them. Because basically, when they made the first round of like beings like us, right? There's many phases to that shit, right? Like the originals, and then they fucking killed those off with like viruses and diseases and different ways, right? Another way was like fires and different stuff, right? So there was different phases, and they destroyed these beings, right? And the reason is because originally, right, what they learned was that us and the way we were designed, being from this realm with this sun like that the sun helped us in our evolution of growth, just like the earth. Okay? And with that high temperature came a high frequency. Okay, a higher frequency than it is now. Okay, and that allowed us to play in our powers a little more. Okay, so you talk about these crystal cities, all that crazy stuff. That was built by other beings, but we benefited, right? Because we're the workers and shit like that. We're in these same, you know, we're in these cities and stuff like that. All right, so they're exposed to that. Okay, and they became too powerful. That's why they killed them off. Okay, so heat directly affects us in a beneficial way, and not just us, the whole motherfucking earth and the whole realm. Okay, that benefits us because the light and the energy from that light also holds information. Okay, and that information unlocks codes within our DNA and shit like that. Okay, and for the people who already know, the sun is alive and is conscious, so that's actually a song or a tune or a motherfucking message being sent directly from source, right? Which is basically these energies from source got split up into different forms of energy, right? So that's one form that got split up that's communicating to us directly, and it helps directly in our growth, right? Just like with plants, right? And photosynthesis and all that shit, and we're just like plants, right? If you look at the cells of a plant and humans, basically the same, right? You only take away like one core ingredient, right? It's the chemistry, right? Which is just a vibration, okay, and a frequency, right? Everything's frequency, everything's vibrations. So they have to make this realm colder in order to control better. Okay. And let me give y'all an example. 2024 was the hottest year on record. And it's supposed to be that way because the sun is in solar maximum. Okay. And scientists for a long time have been talking about global warming. Okay. And that's an event that has been talked about for thousands of years. Okay. And if you want to be familiar with it, the religious texts call it the rapture and the end of the days, the end of times. Okay. And the end of times just means the end of control, or the end of the days, which they knew they had control over the physics of this realm. Because the earth rising in frequency, because of the sun heating up, directly changes the physics of the whole realm. Okay? And with that comes a destruction of their technology, which they don't like. That's not something they like, okay? The earth and us as beings are going to get less dense because of the sun heating up that atmosphere and heating up itself, okay? And with that heat and that rise of frequency is going to come a change of the physics, okay? So all their weapons and shit like that aren't going to work. And they don't like that, okay? So for a long time, the government has been talking about, we need to block the sun. You know, Bill Gates, especially, let's block the sun. Okay, we need to cool off the planet. Okay, global warming, all that shit. All that shit is to protect their little toys that they fucking created for themselves, okay? So once they lose that, they lose control. It's a scary thought. That's why they're scaring people with the whole solar flares and the technology and all that shit. They're trying to switch tech. Okay, so that's why the 0 point technology and all that shit's coming out now. If they could have kept that on the low, they would have. They would have. Okay. So, how do you cool the planet down? How? Like, how does that work? They have fucking machines, right? So in Greenland, there's a fucking spacecraft that crashed, whatever, like 50,000 years ago or some shit like that. That shit is directly creating the fucking cold out there. The winter, that whole shit. Okay? There's videos on that and different people talking about this shit. Okay? They eventually, from there, that was the first place they did that shit. they eventually went down to Antarctica and did that shit. So when they fucking first landed here, they landed in like the North Pole motherfucking region, and that's where they first went inside the fucking Earth. And they came out Antarctica, but they also came out in other fucking places. That's why you got India, who talks about the Naga serpents, and you got the natives that talk about the ant people. You got all these cultures that talk about being their people come from inside the Earth. Okay, those people that come from inside the Earth landed on the motherfucking. They landed originally in like the North Pole motherfucking region, because when you look at it from motherfucking space, that's where you'll see the top of the fucking vortex. Okay. So when they landed here, and you see it in the Sumerian text, okay, when he landed here, this shit was all swampy. Okay, it was swamp. It's very hot. Okay. So what they had to do, because they come from colder fucking places, okay, they had to change the shit up for them and to hinder us. In time, when they started realizing that we become too fucking powerful, because they tried to just create motherfuckers inside test tubes and that shit didn't work. Okay, so they had to get the offspring from the womb of the queen, the priestess, right? So the divinity, the bloodline, that whole shit, we had that same shit that they was claiming. Okay? We had the essence, the whole shit, right? Which gives us the ability to tap in to source, because that gives us the motherfucking ability to like be like a naturally evolved being, you know. Because when you're born not from a womb, then you lost your soul tie. You don't have a soul connection, because the soul enters through the motherfucking womb, right? First through the cosmic womb, right? Then through the womb. It's a process. It was a process that was mimicked from source. So they tried to mimic source, so they created it in their way, right? So that's the reflection. That's the as above, so below, right? So that's how entering through this realm, the soul will enter through the womb. Okay. So how the fuck do they take the heat from this planet, right? So that machine craft, that shit got coils, right? And the same way your motherfucking fridge, how does a fridge work? What does a fridge do? Okay. Your refrigerator, it doesn't cool anything off. It doesn't make anything cold. Neither does your freezer. None of that shit makes anything cold. It absorbs and takes the heat out of fucking foods and shit, okay? And then if you go to the back of the fucking fridge, that shit's gonna be warm, because that's where the fucking heat is, okay? So they're taking the heat out the fucking earth and the fucking beings, okay? And that heat is being fucking transferred actually into fucking space, which there's no space, right? Because you're only in Earth's atmosphere, right? The moon isn't Earth's atmosphere, right? So whatever, that shit's going outwards, right? That way, right? And that's where they got their fucking machines and shit like that. This shit they call satellites and spacecrafts and all that bullshit. They're collecting that energy, y'all. That's what the Van Allen belts and all that shit. That's what that shit is. That's not just the sun. Okay, they're collecting the energy there, and they're collecting energy from people. So if you ever seen the Matrix and shit with the batteries and the whole shit, that's what that shit is. But deeper than that, they're doing that to the whole fucking earth. If that shit don't piss you off to know that it's supposed to be fucking hot and it's not, because of these motherfuckers admittedly, how they destroy the planet, do all that shit, right? Not gonna give a fuck. Take a motherfucking food stamp. Take a motherfucking paycheck. You gotta work for free. Ponzian motherfuckers, no? And you know what's crazy? Until we build some shit gonna continue happening, y'all, because let's be honest, man. Like, let's be honest right now. If we did some shit and we won, whatever, man, are there enough high vibrational beings right now? that you feel safe wherever you at? Maybe some people. Does everyone really feel that way? There's a lot of self-reflection and shit people gotta do, you know? And then there's just shit, like, it is what it is. It is gonna be what it's gonna be, right? But we could up those percentages, right? So, what the fuck is cold? Why is it cold when it's supposed to be hot? They're saying it's gonna be too hot. Global warming, ice melting. We need to block the sun. For what? They trying to take away your powers? What happens to your phone in the cold? The battery dies quicker, right? Right? What are you doing? This is a short one. Because this shit hits home. I don't want to scream out here. I don't want to do none of that. Okay? I'm just speaking facts. And there's a time and a place for everything. Right? And I know what the fuck I be talking about up here. Okay? I see what it is. I see what the fuck it looks like from the outside. And it is what it is. I'm coming up here saying facts. Alright? And if I'm guided to come up here and do a video, be fearless about that shit. Anyway, it's really a time for building, y'all. It's really a time for building. If you could see the attacks and if you could see the temperature checks, right? Just worry about you. Worry about your family, right? Don't let no one take your energy. Okay? Stay focused, alright? And don't blame nobody for shit. Blame yourself for everything. And don't do it in a way that's like, oh, self-pity little fucking bullshit, alright? Take responsibility for that shit. Fucking change. Step by step. It's not fucking, you're not gonna overnight go from eating fucking trash to being this fucking healthy eater. Gotta add a few things. Take away a few things. You're not just gonna wake up and be a bodybuilder. You gotta do a few push-ups. Lift a few things. Get used to it. Get in emotions. Start developing good habits and practicing that within your daily life. And deeper than that, start studying the shit that matters, alright? Who are you? Where the fuck you come from, alright? The shit they're trying to hide from you. Why do they hide it so much if it don't matter? You know what I'm saying? Why do they attack so much if it don't matter? You know what I mean? Why are there CIA documents on kids and stuff and special gifted kids and people doing all types of shit and stuff? Why are there techniques called the Apport technique where you could literally motherfucking remote view and take an object from somewhere else and manifest it here? Why can't you do that? Why is that crazy to care about yourself and to change in the best way? Why is being a parasite what people consider successful? Where does change begin? Right here. I am change. You could be changed too. Be that. Peace.